Hello, everybody. Welcome. My name is Amanda Hallmark. I use she, her pronouns, and I support training for the Your DEQ Online. And so I am joined here today by Martina Fry and Melissa Kays, both experts, who will be taking on most of this presentation for DMR reporting in Your DEQ Online for WPCF individual permits. As the trainer, am just here to help facilitate this session. So before I pass the mic on to them, I just want to go over a couple of housekeeping items here. One, you just hopefully heard that we are recording this session, and so it will be available for you to reference later. We'll be posting it to the external web pages that you use to find the link to register for this session. So we'll be just posting the recording there instead, where you clicked on that link. Also, we will be keeping everyone on mute during the presentation itself, but we do want to hear from you and we want to make sure that we answer all of your questions as we go along. So if you have a question during the presentation, please use that little question mark Q&A widget that you see there in Zoom. You can just click on that, type in your question, and we'll be monitoring those. And we should have time at the end as well to invite you to unmute, and we can have a little bit more of a verbal conversation too. So that is all I have for right now, and then I'll chime back in when we get to that Q&A part. So Martina, I will pass it to you.
Thank you, Amanda. All right. We'll be talking about WPCF individual permit DMR specifically today because that deadline is coming up in July. So just an overview of what we'll be talking about. I'll give a brief introduction of what is your DEQ Online, and then we'll jump into DMRs specifically. I'll point out how to find your DMRs, and then we'll walk through completing a DMR. And then I'll make sure to touch on how to revise a DMR if you made a mistake or need to change something. And then there's other reporting that may be required by your permit. So we'll look at how to find those reporting requirements as well. And then we'll look at what guidance is available for DMRs and other actions that you might want to perform in your DEQ Online. And then we'll look at a calendar for what's coming up next, and then we'll have time for questions. So first, what is your DEQ Online? It is, if you have not been there yet, it's a web-based system for how we manage permits. And so you can electronically submit applications for new permit coverage or renewals. You can submit permit required reports, including DMRs. And you can pay invoices electronically using credit card or e-check rather than having to send a check in the mail, although you can still mail in a check. And then you can access public records as well. So I won't get into details about how to register for an account. From what I gather, there are a lot of folks that already have account registration, so that's great. If you're new to your DEQ Online, I recommend Googling your DEQ Online, and the second link that comes up, for me at least, is Welcome to your DEQ Online, and it has account registration instructions, very detailed. And then, so you'd look at your user account section. And then if you already are familiar or have an account, we do have users guides for how to use your DEQ Online. And those are specific to WPCF permits as well. So definitely take a look there at how to use your DEQ Online. So let's jump into DMRs. We'll first talk about how to find DMRs, and this is an image of my dashboard. So when you get your account and log in, the first place you're brought to is your dashboard. And I want to highlight the two arrows up in the corner here. That is how you open the main menu. And so when I refer to different sort of places in your DEQ Online, I'm referring to links off of the dashboard. So some notes about finding DMRs. There are different places to look depending on the status of the DMR. So if you haven't started a DMR yet, and it's the first time you're opening it, you haven't saved it or anything, you'll look for it in the section called Upcoming Obligations. If you've started a DMR and you've saved it, but you haven't submitted it yet, it's work in progress, you'll find it in Pending Submittals. And then if you've already submitted a DMR and you want to go back to it to either revise it or to look at it, print it out, you'd look in Submitted Submittals. So let's take a look at what that looks like in your DEQ Online. This is my dashboard as a public user. And up here is the toggle for the main menu. So I just mentioned a few places, upcoming obligations, pending submittals, and submitted submittals are three that I recommended as places to find DMRs. So I'm going to search for a DMR in upcoming obligations. And my favorite type of search is, well, first I want to narrow it down because I have a lot of examples here. And so I'm going to narrow it down by submittal type, PC, individual, and choose the individual domestic DMR, just to remove some clutter that we don't want to look at. And my favorite search is to search by due date. And so I'm interested in the DMR that's due in the next 30 days. And so that's one of the options to search by a relative due date. And so here is the DMR that's due tomorrow, and it is for the month of April. And we just want to, you want to double check the reporting period and the due date before you open it. The system will not let you fill out a DMR that's like that where the sampling dates haven't even happened yet. But just be careful to make sure that you're selecting the correct one. If you're looking for another search that you might want to do is, hey, did I miss any submittals that have already passed? You could choose last 3 months, and you can see that I have 3 submittals in the last 3 months that I have not started yet. So that's a good way to double check that you've completed everything that you were supposed to and that you're good to go. And then finally, if you're looking for something in particular that isn't, just whatever's coming up, you can click on this calendar, and it'll change those relative date choices to a date range. So, DMRs are typically due on the 15th of the month. So I will put that date in and say I want to look at the following month as well. This date range will give me 2 DMRs for the next 2 months. So that's how you search for DMRs. And I will switch back over to the PowerPoint now so that I can give you an overview of how a DMR is structured. So when you open up the reporting requirement, which is what we call that record that we just searched for, the DMR is organized by tabs up along the top of the screen. So there's basic information, summary data, attachment, review, and submission. And we'll go through each one of those as we work through our example. It's important to note that fields that are required are highlighted in red. So it's easy to focus in on where you need to enter data. And as soon as you fill out that required field with acceptable data, then it will stop being highlighted. And then finally, to help you track where you are in your data entry, all the tabs along the top will have red exclamation points if there are any incomplete required fields. So you can easily know where to go back to if you have not completed everything that you need to. And you can save a DMR in progress if you haven't filled out all the required fields, but you can't submit a DMR until everything has been filled in. So let's go back to your DEQ Online, and we will open up this April DMR that is due tomorrow and use it as an example. So to open the DMR, you'll click on this red pencil icon for Edit Submittal. And let's get oriented here. This is the main page of the DMR. We have the tabs along the top and the exclamation points that show that we have data entry to do still. Here are the highlighted fields, required fields. And along this side here, we have what the submittal is that we're working on. We want to double check that if you mean to fill out a DMR, that you're filling out a DMR. And then some attachment types that we will get to when we get to the attachment tab. The site information is here. So if you have more than one facility, you want to make sure you're filling it out for the correct site. And then a table of no data indicators. So there may be instances where There is a field that you are required or are sometimes required to report, but sometimes not. Say there's quarterly monitoring, but it shows up monthly on the DMR. There's ways to enter a no data code that reflects why you're not entering a sample value. And so this table summarizes all the different reasons that you might not have data. And I will show an example of using no data codes when we get to that. So that's the form overview. So we'll just go ahead and get started to enter data here. I'll put in my name. And there is a place here for you to add comments about the entire submittal if you want to, but it's optional. And then phone number is required. So now that we have entered all the data required fields here and basic info, the exclamation point has gone away. So let's move over to the summary tab, and this is where you'll probably spend most of your time. Along the left-hand side here are three groups of reporting. And so let's click through these and see what they look like. The first is 002G, and this is influent monitoring. So that says so right up here. And we also have the reporting period. So just a way to double check that you're reporting for the right month. You've got your permit number and facility information. And then up front and center here is this batch edit area, and you can choose to use it or not. I will demonstrate manual data entry first, and then when we get to 002R, I will show you the batch feature. So I'm going to just shrink this here. And then along the bottom here are a list of substances. And so for this permit, it's required monitoring for influent, BOD, flow, pH, and TSS. Okay, so let's just get started with doing some manual data entry. And to open up the data entry form for BOD, you just click on the row, and rows that are pink indicate that there is a required field that is not complete. So there's this form here, and we can home in on the highlighted field that is required. And what this is asking for is for us to report the monthly average concentration of BOD. So you'll probably have compiled your data, your monitoring and sampling data in a separate sheet. So you can go to that sheet and identify your monthly average BOD. And in this case, this permit has monthly monitoring of BOD influence. So that monthly average is just going to be the sample value. So I have a value of 140 to put in there. And as soon as I do, the BOD row turns white to show that we've taken care of all the required fields. So we can click on flow next, and I have some values for that. Please note the units. In this case, it's gallons per day. So you'll want to make sure that you're entering your values in the correct units. So I have 14,000 for monthly average and 18,000 for daily maximum. And again, this has turned white. I should note that down on the bottom here, like if you have any comments that are specific to that parameter, for flow, for example, you can add them here, and that'll be linked directly to these reported values. All right, so pH. pH is important as a maximum and a minimum. So in this case, the permit is asking for the monthly minimum value and the monthly maximum. So if they're sampling twice per week, then you'll have about 8 values to report, and you'll enter the lowest value, 7.2, and the highest value in the monthly maximum, 8.1. And then total suspended solids, asking for monthly average concentration, and I have 10 for that. All right, so once we've entered all the data that we needed to in the required fields, everything turns white here, and the exclamation point goes away on G. So I'm going to save at this point, and you don't have to save for each tab, but it's not a bad way to go, just to make sure you don't lose any work. So let's move on to 002L. This is lagoon monitoring, and there are 2 parameters here. This is pretty common for WPCF permits that have lagoons or ponds for holding wastewater. And there's a note here that applies to O. So over here that says see comments O, and so this is what that comment is. So let's look at lagoon observation visual. This is how we've coded that daily perimeter inspection that this permit requires. So the note here says that if you have performed the inspections at the permit prescribed frequency, meaning daily in this case, then you would enter 1. And if you did not meet that minimum frequency or did not perform the required inspections, then you'd enter 0. So down here, we're asking to report that value of either 1 or 0, and it's defined yes equals 1. In this case, we're going to put in a 1 to say that we did perform those daily inspections as required. And then depth of pond or reservoir in feet. We've got their units here, and we're looking for monthly maximum. This is a weekly measurement, so you'll have 4 measurements to choose from, and you will enter the highest value. So put in 10 here, 10 feet. And now we've completed that. Everything's white, and the exclamation point is gone. All right, so let's move on to recycled water. This one has a lot more parameters. So this is a good candidate for using the batch edit feature. And so let's open that up. And the first thing you want to do for batch edit is to click to download CSV template. So anywhere on this wording here, you can click it, and it will open a spreadsheet that looks like this. And I'm going to zoom in a little because why not? So this template matches the order of the substances that are shown on the screen in the DMR form. And so you want to be careful not to move any of these rows around because they're still in alphabetical order by substance, just like the ones on the screen. And every field here that has 5 asterisks, you do not need to do anything with because we're not asking for that piece of data. But anything that has a statistic and a unit, you want to replace with that value. So for example, chlorine usage, I have a value of 0.5 milligrams per liter. I mean, pounds per day, sorry. And then for daily maximum, I have 1.0 or 1. And then for chlorine total residual, I have 0.04 for a monthly average. For flow, I have 0.1 and 2 for a monthly total. For irrigation flow, 1. And then for pH, I have 7.1 and 7.8. So we still have these BOD nitrate plus nitrate, total Kaldol nitrogen, and total suspended solids. And there's a comment associated with those. Let's go back over and look at the comment. And so the BOD here and these other 3 parameters are annual reporting. And if this is a month that we did not measure for those constituents, then this is an instance where we'd use that no data indicator code on *9 conditional monitoring not required this period. So in our spreadsheet, instead of entering a value because we didn't measure that, we just enter *9. And you want to make sure that you include the asterisk so that the system doesn't read that as 9 milligrams per liter. The asterisk is important. So we will just use that NODI code for all 4 of these constituents that we did not measure that this month, and then we're ready to do the copy paste. So another important thing that's actually like a common pitfall for copy paste is that we want to only highlight the inside of the table. So the asterisks and the data that we entered. We want to ignore the first row and the first column. So we're going to highlight this section and copy it to our clipboard. And then we'll go back over here. And in this yellow section here, it says copy and paste here. So we will paste that data. And you'll want to take a look at the preview and make sure that there are no headers or first column included. And it basically takes the data from the Excel spreadsheet and turns it into this table. And it looks pretty good. So I'm going to click on the import data button here and then click OK, that yes, I wish to proceed. And now all of these pink substance rows are now white. I highly encourage you to check to make sure that the data came in correctly. Anything that's out of order will cause problems. And so, just click through to make sure, okay, BOD, we didn't measure that this month. Chlorine usage is, the numbers that I expect. And click through just to double check. And then once you've done that, you are good to move on. All of the exclamation points are gone, and the summary data tab is clear as well. So this would be another good time to save. All right. Let's move to the attachment tab. So over here we had a list of attachment types. This one, the domestic data sheet for e-reporting is required. And that's because when we're collecting summary data, that's those summary values like monthly average are usually based on multiple daily data points. And so we require a spreadsheet attachment, not a PDF or a scan or anything like that, but an actual spreadsheet that tracks that daily data. So say you make a spreadsheet for yourself that has 1 through 31 for days, and then the constituents that you need to report along the top. And then you can track that as you go, entering your sample values, and then save that to computer and attach it. So there's two ways to attach. And I'll show you one where you can drag and drop. So I have a spreadsheet here that I want to attach as my daily data. So I will just drag it over and let's see. Sorry. So I drag it over and it shows up as an item in the list, but there's one more step you need to complete. So we have to identify what document type this is. So you can click on the row to open up this short form and you can select the document type. And because I'm attaching my daily data, I want to identify it as this domestic data sheet for e-reporting. And once I do that, then I've met the attachment requirement for attaching that daily data. If I marked this as other, it still is looking for that required attachment. So it's really important to make sure that you're identifying it correctly as needed, depending on what you're attaching. And then another attachment that you might want to include is if you have any numeric effluent violations or numeric violations or failed to meet some narrative conditions in your permit, you'd want to include a non-compliance reporting form. We have a PDF of that here that you can download and fill out and then attach and label it as that. If you accidentally attach the wrong file, you can use this trash can to remove this entry. You can click OK, and then let me show you the other way to upload a file. You can click on this bar till it turns yellow, and it will open a dialog box where you can search for your file and click open. And again, it adds it as a row, and you'll want to open it up and select the type of attachment. So because we're good to go, we've attached our daily data. The attachment requirement is met, so we can move on to the review. But first, I'm going to save. All right, the review tab is for your convenience, and it basically lists out all the different required elements of the DMR and gives you red check marks for things that are complete. And so if we failed to, take care of something on one of these forms, there would be a red check mark here that matches the exclamation point. But once you have all of those, all the required fields filled out, it'll basically say you're good to go. It'll mention that your mandatory attachment was included, and this means that you're ready to move on to the submission tab. So let's go there. And the submission tab has the certification statement that's pretty standard, that you're the right person to submit and that you're submitting accurate information. So you can click on that. And then there's a couple security measures here. When you sign up for your account, you answer some security questions. So you'll want to have those handy, um, because every time you submit a submittal, you'll need to answer one of those questions. So I'll do that. And then there's a PIN number as well. And once you've checked the boxes and answered those questions, then you can click submit. This button will turn blue, and we're ready to do that. So successful submission. That's nice to see. This is your confirmation page. You can choose to print a receipt of it. And also note that the responsible officials who are linked to this permit will receive an email with the same information, the submitted date and time, and that it was received. So I want to now show you how to find this submission and revise it if you need to. So as I mentioned before, complete submittals, when you've actually submitted a DMR, you will find those in the submitted submittals section. So there's different search functions on this page. Loading. And submittal type, in this case, I want to do my WPCF domestic. DMR. So here it is, our YDO test facility. If I have a whole bunch of these, because I've already submitted a bunch of DMRs, I can also narrow it down by submitted date. But here it is, the one that we just submitted today. So once you find the submittal that you want to modify, you go over to the orange icon, and that's to view submittal detail. And this brings you to the submittal summary page. And then down here on the bottom in this yellow box is a revision section. So if you want to take this back because you included the wrong attachment, you made a typo, you got some revised information from the lab, whatever the case may be, you can click this revision button, and a reason for requesting the revision is required. So, whatever the case may be, you can just say wrong attachment. Once you enter a reason, then the send request button is activated, and so you can click that. And this does not require approval on our part. You can request the revision and it happens immediately. And so our note says, please go to pending submittals to view the record. So we will go over to pending submittals. And this should be a short list for you because you probably don't have a lot, you won't have a lot of submittals that are a work in progress. But here's the one that we just filled out today and then asked for back, and it has a status of revision. And so to edit this, you would just go in to the red pencil and see it basically keeps all the information that you had already included. And so you can go and modify any of this as needed, or switch out attachments if you need to, and then go to the submission tab and submit like I just showed you. So you can initiate a revision if you know you made a mistake, and DEQ can also send DMRs back to you if they've identified a problem. And so it basically will show up in the pending submittals again, and you'll get an email as a responsible official saying that you've received a send back with the reason. So you can take it back or we can send it back. All right, let's go back to our presentation. I just showed you the revising a DMR, so we'll skip that. And other reporting in your DEQ Online. So we talked about DMRs. That's one type of report. It's scheduled monthly, quarterly, annually, depending on your permit requirements. And we looked at how to find those. But there are other reports that aren't DMRs that show up one time per permit term, potentially, like these. Groundwater monitoring reports are quarterly, and those are not submitted as DMRs. and then various annual reports depending on the nature of your permit. So let's look at, for example, a hauled waste annual report. And the goal over the next month is to get these annual reports that have specific due dates assigned out to your accounts so that you'll have them ready for you when you want to submit that report, say in January 15th, whenever it's due. So we'll go back to your DEQ Online. And the first place you'll look for these reports is in submitted submittals, upcoming obligations, sorry. And you should, in my case, I'll want to search based on keywords for a hauled waste annual report. Hmm. Let's see, maybe that's why submittal type. Okay, so I'm searching for hauled waste annual report, and I want the WPCF individual domestic one, not the NPDES one. And so here it is, hauled waste annual report. It was the one for 2025 that was due in early 2026. You can see it's overdue because the due date is in red. And so just like with DMRs, you click the red pencil button, and it's got a similar look and feel. But depending on the actual report that you're filling out, maybe it's a simple form like this one where you identify your permit and the reporting year, and then you attach a PDF or a document of the hauled waste annual report that you would normally have mailed. So in this case, it's just like attach it and we will review it that way. Some of the other annual reports and other reports have more information that you'd fill out in the screen. It just depends on which report you're filling out. But you'll definitely want to look in upcoming obligations first to see what's been assigned to you. And if you're looking for something and it hasn't been assigned, that's a possibility that we might have missed it. So you should submit a help desk ticket and let us know, hey, I need to submit my hauled waste annual report, but I'm not finding a reporting obligation, and we'll add it for you. Make sure you have it when you need it. Okay, so there are other types of required reports that are not, they don't have a date tied to them. So say you had a sanitary sewer overflow. That's not something that you schedule per se. So you find one of those by going to new submittal and searching for the type of submittal that you're looking for. And here's our WPCF individual domestic overflow reporting form. And so when it's something ad hoc like this, where you don't know what's coming, you'd go to new submittals to find that and initiate that form. And when in doubt, if you don't know where to find something that you need to submit, please use the help desk. The folks there are really great. All right. Oh, we looked at this already. So your DEQ Online guidance. I want to show you what our website looks like. If you go to that Welcome to Your DEQ Online link, we've got the user account thing for getting registered. And then down here, how to use your DEQ Online, that has all of our user guides and things. And I want to highlight that under water quality, we have a specific section for WPCF and NPDES wastewater permits. So you'll find tailored instructions for how to apply or reapply for permits, how to do transfers and name changes, and then also the DMR guide that I keep referencing is linked from there as well. So the user's guide for submitting DMRs is definitely worth downloading and saving to your computer. The DMRs will be available for you to review and look at come June 1st. We're doing QA/QC on them right now, so they're not up yet. But when you take a look at those and you go through the different forms and the notes, if you have any questions about how exactly to report, I recommend starting with the user's guide because it explains different scenarios and how to fill out a DMR with screen grabs and things like that. So definitely check the user's guide first. We're recording all these trainings and they're available via links off of our user guide, our resource website. And so you can come back and view these if needed. And it's also good to do that if you're training new staff. And then I want to encourage you to submit questions or comments. So we've rolled out electronic reporting in your DEQ Online for two other groups. And we got some feedback about how, um, this attachment doesn't really work well for us, or it would be nice if this were described differently, things like that. And we've made those changes on the fly in response to that feedback. So we want to make sure the system works as well for you as it does for us. And so we encourage you to submit comments and questions about like, hey, is this possible through the help desk? And then I will give one more plug to the help desk. We have a whole team of people who triage the requests that come in. Anything that has DMR in the description comes to me and my team. So if it's a question about how to fill out your DMR or how to interpret different codes, or if you think that something's missing or that something doesn't quite match how you've been reporting, that's definitely something for the help desk. So what's next? I mentioned that we will be delivering the DMRs to the accounts by June 1st. So those will be ready for you to view at the beginning of the reporting month. Our next live webinar, which matches the content from this webinar, is June 10th. So if you have colleagues who couldn't make it today, please encourage them to go to that one. And the registration link is on our webpage. And then in July, when we know you'll be actually, working on these and filling them out, we will have 2 sessions for office hours. And basically, you just click on the Zoom link and drop in. You can ask questions. We'll have people who are skilled at registration and linking your accounts, and also people from my team, myself included, to help you with DMR questions and specifically. And then our first DMR due date for WPCF individual permits is July 15th. So that's what we're aiming for here. If you have questions that are outside of office hours or past this due date, have new staff who have questions, the help desk support is going to be ongoing. And the response time is usually the same day or next morning. So we're really fast at getting you answers. All right, that was a lot of information, so I'm happy to take questions now.
Thanks, Martina. So we'll start with a couple that are in the Q&A. One of them is, where does the daily data spreadsheet come from? Do we make our own, or is there one that we can download?
There is one that we use for NPDES permits, but I feel like it's not that flexible. So I would recommend making one that matches the specific permit requirements. Having coded a lot of these permits in the system, it's just like one size does not fit all. So, but I recommend that it have a list of the days of the month and then the parameters that you're monitoring for, and it's as simple as that.
Great, thank you. So, folks, I do have another one that I'll read out here to Martina in just a second. And then I want to invite you in the meantime to think of anything that you might want to ask over your microphone. So we're at the point where we'd be happy to unmute you if you raise your hand and have a question that you'd like to ask that way. So the question that is entered in Q&A is from James. The WPCF for mining does not report for the items in the first portion, where you fill out the 3 categories prior to submitting the Excel file. Currently, we tab waiver since the mine has been inactive. Now that we are active, how do we bypass this portion so we can submit our quarterly DMRs with an Excel? Sorry, I keep fumbling over the word Excel sheet.
I'm not sure how to answer that question specifically. I would encourage James to submit that into as a help desk ticket, and that way we can look at that permit specifically and what the setup is and make sure that it matches the inspectors and your expectations. And so that's something we can work on before June.
Thank you. So there is a follow-up about that daily data spreadsheet. Does it need to be based in Excel or is the standard PDF okay?
PDF is not good, but it doesn't have to be Excel. It could be Google Sheets, or it could be saved as a CSV. Um, Actually, I think it needs to be Excel or XLS. But yeah, the goal is to be able to extract data for analysis out of those spreadsheets. And so when it's a PDF, that's very hard to do.
All right, Dustin asks, do we submit DMRs as individual for even if we have multiple facilities?
If you have multiple facilities, then and they all have DMRs, then they will show up as individual reporting obligations for those different permits. And so you'll want to make sure you're linked to those permits with the correct submittal type. All of that is in the registration instructions. And then you'll see them listed separately for each permit on your dashboard.
Great. So Hayden, I see your hand up, so I'm going to go ahead and invite you to unmute. You should be good.
Can you hear me?
Yep, there you are.
Okay, cool. Thank you for doing this, by the way.
No problem.
Absolutely.
I have multiple questions. I feel like a lot of them will probably just be help desk type questions, but I'll just start with one. If I'm an RO, or I am an RO for one WPCF, I will be a consultant for multiple other WPCF permits. Do I need two different accounts, or can I be both under one account?
Melissa, can you help?
Sorry, had to find the mute button. Um, so if you're doing consultant work and you're doing RO work, we suggest that you get two separate accounts. I know that's not the most convenient thing, but having your RO account, you can link just the RO related items to it, and then having the consultant account, then whoever is the RO will designate you as the consultant. And that way, if you are no longer the consultant, they have the option to remove you. Otherwise, you'll be linked on your RO account to that, and we'll have to do a whole bunch of gymnastics to get you back off of it. So we encourage you to do two. If you haven't already, then let us know. We can help you straighten that out.
Do I need two different like email addresses?
Yes.
Okay. And can I piggyback a question on that same thing?
Mhm. Go for it.
How how do I, if I'm the consultant, how do I get linked to an account? And if I'm the RO, how do I invite or link a consultant?
So do we want to, so the easiest way is to demonstrate it. Do you want,
Right.
Martina, do you want to bring your screen back up?
Sure. You'll walk me through it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just don't have anything set up and ready. So
Okay. Oh, I need to share. Sorry. All right. So here we are in my account.
okay, so for this is an RO account. So on the RO side, what the RO will do is go to that consultants tab. So right there in the middle. And then they need to know what email account you use to sign up for your consultant account. So as long as they know what your email address is, they would put the email address in. And Martina, you can go ahead and put in grabbing my account.
Okay.
Um, it's misboc@yahoo.com. It should be in there. And then click Find Consultant. Okay.
Mm.
It's under the Evergreen one, which I don't want to deal with right now. It makes a mess. But basically, what happens is you will click on this, it will add your consultants down below, and then you will click on which consultant and do the and you know what, we really do need to show them that because there's a lot of steps. So give me 1 second. Let me
Okay.
reset. You're in training.
And While you're doing that, I'll also mention that we just updated all of our guides, so they're all up to date. Our user guides that will show how to link consultants. So if you need a reference later, we'll certainly still demo it now. But if you need if you don't remember what we're talking about here later, we should have everything posted on our website.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I can grab that link too. Um,
Okay, Martina, it's going to be the same one.
MISBOC.
Yep. And let me, of course, it doesn't have a phone number. It's like, no, you can't save it.
Let me know when I'm ready to click the button.
Okay, you should be ready to click the button.
Ah, there you are.
So there we go. So then on the right-hand side, there is a link. And so you would click link, and then you have to add permissions. So then opening up the user and then adding permissions. So you can do it by submittal or submittal group. So if you have a consultant, you want to only do your DMRs, you could add them just to a DMR and not add them to anything else. So they couldn't fill out permit applications or any of the other things. They would just have access to those, in this case, WPCF industrial DMRs. So then you pick which site it goes with, because we have to have a site. So your site should be in the dropdown as long as as the RO, you're linked to the site correctly. And then you have the option of doing the effective and the expiration date. So you can say, as of today, you do not have to fill out the effective and the expiration date, but you can say, like, I don't want them to have access until June 1st. You could put in June 1st, 2026, and then you would put the expiration date if you want to cut them off at some point. You could say, okay, no more after, June 30th, 2026. They have 1 month, that's it. You can put the 2 dates in there and that'll work. You don't have to put in the dates. And then you would click the plus button. And this is very important. If you do not click the plus button, it doesn't add that option above where that pop-up just came up. And then you have to click save. Those are the two things to keep in mind when you're adding permissions in here. And it's the same when you're working with your account type and adding a facility and a submittal group. If you're not clicking the plus button and you're not clicking the save button, it'll let you click save, but you won't actually have saved what you're trying to add. So that's how you add a consultant on the RO side. And on the consultant side, you can't add anything yourself. You have to wait for the RO to actually add you to their account to give you permissions.
But you can let them know that you set up the that you have a consultant account and what the email is so that they can link you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right.
So I was going to say similar topic because I saw this, Aaron asked this earlier, and I just want to point this out. So similar to what we just did. Wait, Martina, bring it back.
Oh, sorry.
Wait, I still have an example here.
Okay.
So similar to what we were just talking about. The other thing that you guys are going to have an experience with is when you are registering for your account type. So this is where you select your facility. And this is also where you say, here's the submittal group. And so for individual WPCF industrial or individual WPCF domestic, you have to have that checkbox. But if you don't have, just slightly below there with the facility submittal group permissions, if you don't have that combination of the facility that has your permit and that group, then it won't actually let you see the permit and it won't let you see your reporting obligations. So you have to have that combination, and that drop down works very similarly. Clicking add permission, pick the facility. And then you choose the submittal group
Let's see.
that it goes with.
I'll do this one since I don't have that one linked already.
And then,
so I've got this checked and this checked, but we're not done yet, right?
yep.
So we have to use this yellow plus sign to add it to this list up here. And so we've got that combination, and then it'll remind you to save because it doesn't take effect until you've done that.
So, and if you're missing that combination for the facility submittal group permissions, again, you will not be able to see your permit and you will not be able to see your reporting obligations. So if you are missing those, but you link to your facility, that is probably the issue.
Wrong.
And again, help desk ticket and we will get everything set up for you.
Great. So I tagged a couple things that are in a similar vein here since we're talking about accounts. So one of them should be pretty straightforward here. If I'm filling out a DMR, but we have an RO that needs to sign it, do I just fill it out, save it, and then let the RO know? And that's exactly right. So
Yeah.
you can do everything as a consultant, and then you just inform your RO that it's ready for them to review and submit. So the other one is if you only have a consultant account, would changing to an RO account change all of your settings that I currently have? And if I am only a consultant for plants, would becoming an RO have any adverse issues? And that felt like a Melissa question if you know Melissa.
Maybe I need to stop putting it on mute. Well, one more time on the question. I'm sorry. I was
Yeah,
typing a
no,
different answer.
you're good. If you only have a consultant account, would changing to an RO account change all of your settings that you currently have? And if I'm only a consultant for plants, and would becoming an RO have adverse issues?
There's no adverse issues. However, you can't do it yourself. You have to request that through the help desk. And so it's a little bit of a process. It's not a huge deal, but we encourage you to try to sign up for the correct account at the beginning. It just makes it a little bit easier than trying to get everything transferred back and forth.
Great. Thank you. All right. Thomas, thank you for your patience while we got through some of that. I just unmuted you. You should be good to go.
You hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I had a couple buttons. I think you just answered it, but I want to make sure that I'm crystal clear. Now, I'm a consultant for a couple different facilities, um, but that RO has to go in and give me those permissions before I'm going to see the obligation show up on my screen, correct?
That's right.
Yes, that's right. Yep, the RO has to give you all of the correct permissions to the correct submittal type. So yeah, if I would guide them to the guidance that I linked for all of you in the chat, if they don't know how to do that, but they definitely need to give you permissions before you will see everything.
Okay, thanks. That's the biggest concern I had. I wasn't seeing it. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Okay, so let's see here. We have about 5 minutes left and just a few questions, so I think we might be able to get through all of them. So let's see. Anonymous person asks, do we copy paste our Excel DMR on two summary data or three attachment?
So when you download that template, that CSV template, and that pulls up, that's what you use to copy paste. So you don't want to copy paste from your daily data spreadsheet because it's probably not going to be aligned exactly the same. And so you'll want to use the CSV that you downloaded and fill that out and use that for copy paste on the summary data sheet. And trying to think what else. Oh, another thing to note is that some of these permits have seasonal requirements. And so, your DMR in January might have different reporting than your DMR in the dry season in August. So it's important to look at or to use the CSV for that particular month to make sure that you're matching the form and taking into account seasonal differences.
Thanks, Martina. So Melissa's just been doing a fantastic job of answering things via text as well. So we actually cleared out our open queue. As attendees, you should be able to see everything that Melissa's answered as well. So if you want to peruse those and see if there's a question in there that you have that's similar, there should be an answer. I'm also just going to add to the chat the link to the help desk to just remind you all again that that is your best resource for your individual needs. And our team does a really great job of guiding you to the right person if it's account registration, our YDO team or Martina for very specific DMR stuff. So we're happy to help you with whatever it is you need. And with that, let's see, I have another question that popped in. Where do we attach our Excel DMR?
So on the attachment tab, you can upload it from your computer by clicking the click to upload here. And so you click that and navigate to the file and attach it. And then there's one more step after you see the row form. There's some red text that says click here to identify the document type. And so then you open that up and you can choose the document type from the list.
All right, thank you. So folks, we are at time. So I'm going to go ahead and just say thank you so much for all of your engagement and your questions and for attending. Please check out all of the resources that we have available for you. And we're happy to help anyone at one of those open office hours that Martina mentioned as well. And then keep an eye out for the recording. It takes me a little bit of time to get it all loaded into our website. So I would imagine that I'll have it back here posted online sometime in the next week, but I will send out a message to everyone when it's ready to go. So thanks everyone. Thanks Martina and Melissa for your expertise. And I hope everyone has a great afternoon.
Thank you all.